online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, Agent Carter fans! Are you ready to talk? So Agent Carter here on AFTERBUZZ TV! Woo! Guys, I'm ready for tonight. I don't know how you guys feel. I am very excited to talk about episode 107, Snafu. Guys, if you haven't done so already, log on to our YouTube page at youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. Hit us there. You can subscribe to this and all of the AfterBuzz podcasts. We do over 100 shows a week, and you can get them there. You can get them on iTunes. You can get them on SoundCloud. So many places that you can hear us talk about Agent Carter. And I am so excited to talk about this episode, you guys. You can also tweet at us during the show. See, I keep getting off track because I'm so excited. You guys tweet at us. We're using the hashtag ABTV Agent Carter, and also you can tweet at me at that Zach Wilson, and my fantastic panel can be tweeted Megan Salinas.
You can tweet at me at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin.
And you guys can tweet at me at IAMSTEFZ.
Hello world, you can tweet at me at Jesse Klein 1. That's JESSKLEIN, the number 1.
Yes.
All right, guys, let's dig into it. Thank you, all those who found your way over. There's a small YouTube error, but those of you who made it over on the live stream, we are excited to have you. Yeah, let's get started, you guys. Snafu. Jesse,
oh
I believe you.
God.
It is quite a snafu that our heroes have stumbled into.
It stands for Situation Normal, all freaked up. To use not the swear word. Children, ask your parents what the F stands for. Yeah, what a crazy episode this was.
Yes.
This episode was all kinds of nuts. I'm going to show off, guys, I'm just wearing my casual Agent Carter t-shirt.
Nice.
I'm a little
I was going to say, can anybody actually see that with the computer?
There you go.
There.
Nice.
Nice.
And you got your red hat on. You're back in the game tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start just by talking about Peggy in this episode. Peggy was, we opened on her in custody.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's back, not behind bars technically, I guess behind glass and wood, because that's all those walls are made up of. But at this point, it's like a triple assault. They sick Sousa on her, they sick Thompson, and Dooley himself is in the room because they want the truth at the end of the day.
Right.
Fantastically edited scene. Like, just going through all three of them interrogating her. It flowed really, really well.
Yeah, there were a lot of money lines in there as well. The part where Thompson's like, you know what I'm capable of, and then she says, and you know what I'm capable of, and it was like, oh, that's much more scary.
Yeah.
She's a lot scarier person than Thompson is. And like Sousa being legitimately hurt, like I thought that was really interesting how Sousa did a big swing in this episode where he started off where he was legitimately hurt and upset with Carter, and by the end of it he was back on her side, but he was super pissed.
I mean, you'd be pissed too.
Yeah, I would.
You'd be pissed too, but at the end of the day, she's really, like, I get she's hiding stuff with them, but at the end of the day, she's not doing what he actually was super pissed about. And you know what I mean? Like, they accuse her of doing so much more. So if he actually believed her from the beginning, I don't know, if I was her, I might be pissed that he would be like, seriously, you think I would do this? You think I would kill Krasinski? You know what I mean? You think all of that stuff. So I think that was kind of like, went both ways a little bit.
I was just really relieved that this episode didn't start off with Thompson's interrogation methods.
I legitimately thought that he might strike her at some point in this episode.
He can't. She saved his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if his boss tells him, like, you gotta interrogate this person, she's a spy, like, I mean, that's where he's torn, and that's where this episode really is strong, in that, like, Thompson and Sousa are both really torn.
Yeah.
Sousa has trusted her, has, like, really leaned on her a lot. Thompson wouldn't be there if it wasn't for her. And as he puts it, it doesn't add up. Like, why would she save his life? Why would she yell at him to go when he's telling her to leave?
Yeah.
If she was really undercover trying to take the SSR down.
Right, and no one, like, Sousa doesn't know how Thompson knows what she did for him. So, you know what I mean? Thompson's approach, I like that he actually didn't accuse her and that he did stay in that confused state of it doesn't add up. Because it showed that he actually respected her and what she did for him.
Yeah, and also, like, she's a war hero. I feel like it would have been interesting to see Thompson try and beat up Peggy Carter, because I think she might be tougher than Thompson.
She is tougher than Thompson.
I think she could take a beating from Thompson. I don't think it would have been nice to see, but I'm just saying it would have been interesting. I've never seen anything like that before, and it would have been an interesting spectacle.
And let's be fair, you're probably not going to see that on ABC.
No.
This isn't HBO?
No.
Watching HBO?
How awesome would it be if it was?
The HBO version of this show, she was punched like 12 times before like the minute 5 mark.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, maybe that's the kind of stuff we're going to see on... more on like the Daredevil, the Netflix kind of series,
stuff,
but the moment that really struck me in the whole sequence with Carter being interrogated by everyone was when she says, "I've never been more to eat than what each of you. I've never been more than what each of you created."
Yes.
Yep.
That line, like, she just lands that and like calls them out, like she calls out Thompson, who was just like treating her like subordinate. Like, yeah, recently he sort of went back on that, but for a long time he treated her as subordinate. Dooley treated her as a secretary. And what the strongest part of that speech to me was when she called out Sousa, because as much as he was being a good guy and he was like, "I'm going to help you," she
was a damsel in distress to him.
Yeah, she was nothing more. He as much as he was nice to her, he didn't respect her.
Yeah, none of them did.
100%. I like the way she put it too. He put her up on a pedestal, and that's not treating somebody like a person. That's objectifying them in a different way.
Yeah,
right.
And saying that, basically saying the reason why she was so good at going behind their backs is because they let her. Like, that she was only visible when she was bringing them documents, coffee, or lunch. Like, that's why she was able to do all of it, is because no one was really paying attention to her, because no one really respected her.
And I think there was a certain amount of recognition in that moment where each of them are like, oh, yeah.
I guess we did do that.
Well, it kind of started with the chief saying, like, "I am impressed. Like, there are 10 guys out in that room who wish they could do what you've done." So, like, it already started, like, they now respect her and fear her, which I guess is better than being just a secretary. Not that being a secretary is bad. Thank you, secretary.
Yeah, she gets the most amount of recognition, you know. This is like, it's kind of sad that this is like the one thing that really gets her the recognition she's been craving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I almost feel like that comment was somewhat sarcastic. Like, it wasn't sarcastic in the sense that they thought she was doing a good job of lying, but also there's clearly other ways that she wanted to be to impress Chief.
For sure.
You know what I mean, by doing that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the chief, they all look down on her.
Yeah.
And you look down on somebody you think you're above until the moment that they are stronger than you, then they turn on you, because to them, not as far as they're concerned at this point, she tricked them all.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, we thought you were just this lowly little woman, and now you are this scary, badass, like... It's
Even
almost
then
like
they tried to marginalize her by saying, like, "Oh, it makes sense. Stark's famous for his."
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
they still don't respect her.
So they thought that maybe it was because she was sleeping with Stark that she would do all of this for him.
I think that's
so
like
even then it was like marginalizing her.
It was still like, oh, she's just a floozy still. Instead of being Captain America's floozy, she's Howard Stark.
Yeah, they still can't crawl out from under that, like, fact that she's a woman. Like, they can't deal with it.
They still think that love is her really weird, misguided motivation.
Yeah.
Well, but at the end of the day, I think the reason why they can't deal with it is because they can't accept that a woman could be stronger, more powerful, or smarter than them. And that's what because I feel like even after that scene, they still don't give her 100% respect. Even after later things happen and she's the one that again catches on and leads the team to figure it out. the SSR. You know what I mean? Like, they still don't give her the normal respect as if it was, you know, one of the guys that figured all this stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically they don't want her to be, and this is a problem that persists to today. There's this bizarre want to, like, put people down even if they are better than you. There's a need to, like, be better, even if they're more skilled. There's a reason that you're still better. And in this, it's like, okay, so she's a better spy than us. She's a better soldier than us. She's better at all of these other things. But, you know, she's probably just sleeping with Stark. So we're better in the end. We're better, you guys.
Yeah.
And it's obviously ridiculous, but that's what she's up against.
Yeah. And I'd say it's what women are. I would venture to guess that every woman in, like, the comedy world that I work with has you know, come up against, like, oh, she only got that gig because people want to sleep with her, not because she's funny. Like, I feel like it's something that women deal with, and I bet that goes over to everything.
Oh, I don't think
where women still don't get the respect that they deserve. I mean, they still aren't paid the same amount, so it's still a thing that we are battling so much later. Like, it's a crazy thing.
There was actually a funny little Agent Carter sketch on that a fan on YouTube did. It was this really funny Flash animated sketch about that whole thing. It was pretty funny.
About the guys dealing with, what do you remember what it's called?
Oh yeah, it was the girl who does the Fangirls series on YouTube. Only Lee is the YouTube person's name. Basically, it's just Agent Carter listening to everybody berate her, and she's like, God, I hate the 40s. I can't wait until, you know, the future when there's equality in the workplace. And then Natasha's getting her paycheck in the future.
Right.
Sure.
And it's sad.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, those are problems. That's what this show is doing, and what great TV does is it takes something that is absolutely going on in the real world, puts it into a absurd scenario or a crazy scenario. In this case, a 40s spy agency that is working below the radar, predetermining shield and fighting weird psychological mind warping guys. But it's a story. It's a emotion that rings true to today.
Yeah. Well, they kind of have to do it that way, because if they literally just made TV shows about, like, how bad things were, like, nobody would watch.
It's called Lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the subliminal messages that you get, but you're actually super entertained while getting them.
Yeah. So at this point, we get Jarvis coming in.
Yeah. Faking the signed documents.
Cute.
Good on
so
Jarvis.
Cute, though.
Yeah.
The moment where he walks in, though, is great, because obviously he knows where it is. He's been brought there. He was interrogated there. But he walks into the phone company and is like, I'm here to see Chief Dooley. Who? And she's got a gun.
She does.
Down there.
I almost feel like, at that point, is she not supposed to shoot him? Like,
Well, I think she was getting ready to. Like, if he
Yeah.
had tried to force himself into the SSR, she would have pulled a gun on him.
Then he said the magic words.
yeah.
But again, like, I really like this kind of rhymed with the earlier episodes where it's kind of a reversal of characters, where usually it's like the girlfriend comes in and, like, has to bail out, like, the boyfriend who's, like, stuck in jail and, like, that kind of stuff, and, like, has, like, this, like, tricky way of getting him out. And instead it's Jarvis.
That's interesting, yeah.
And, like, has the file and a cake for
Well, and I kind of think it's interesting, too, just given all of the stuff that poor Peggy has to deal with on a daily basis, who do they leave in charge to essentially guard the door, literally, like, armed to guard the door? It's a group of women.
Yeah.
One woman in particular. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, they all seem to be, this was what surprised me, they all seem to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah, apparently just the phone operators are also SSR agents.
I mean, I would expect, like, a couple of them, although maybe you could argue that they're looking because...
Oh, they're
He
operating the phones.
mentioned, I have the signed confession of Howard Stark.
Yeah.
It's not like nobody knows who Howard Stark is.
Sure.
I think even if you do work for the phone company, you're like, I'm sorry, you have what? No.
Chances are he dated a couple of those girls, too.
Probably most of them.
Yeah, the odds are that he slept with at least 2 of them. Yeah. That's the statistical analysis of what we
I think
heard.
one of the times it was just he was making a phone call and connected with an operator and was like, hey, you sound beautiful.
What are you wearing?
Yeah, exactly.
Meet me.
Before the end of the night, they were having sex with Howard Stark.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Binders of women.
Binders full of women.
And then they had a diamond bracelet the next day. But Jarvis walks in, and of course they're suspicious of this, and of course it was a lie.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was like, is Howard coming back? Like, that seems surprising.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? Did you think even for a moment that Howard Stark was confessing, or even fake confessing?
I think from the beginning I thought it was Jarvis doing a fake confession.
I didn't know if it was Jarvis on his own or Howard Stark together, but I definitely felt like they had some sort of plan to spring Peggy.
Yeah.
That was my feeling. Watching it fall apart, as Peggy's questioning him, was probably the biggest comic relief moment in this episode.
Yeah.
Very much needed. But yeah, I figured they had some plan, but I didn't think it was just Jarvis acting on his own. That surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't think that it was. I thought that Howard would have been like Jarvis told him, like, they've got Peggy. What are we gonna do now? Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? But no.
Yeah, I partially expected the briefcase to have like some gas in it or something, like
It's right in here.
Hook.
Yeah.
It has like a miniature repulsor ray, so they could jump out the window.
Well, there was some while we were watching. It was like, don't trust a briefcase from Howard Stark.
Yeah,
There's no way that's a normal briefcase. Was my thought.
but then it
Turned out
was.
it was.
All it contained were lies. He brought a briefcase full of lies. But of course, at this point, they're trying to coerce like Peggy's freedom.
Yeah.
And
it works.
Yeah. Well, Dooley's no fool though. He's like, as soon as Howard Stark gets here, and we have confirmation that you're telling us the truth, then we will let you go, Miss Carter, because you are no longer an agent.
I did love that this was essentially turn in your badge. Like, you're off the force.
Yeah.
I mean, it was working until Carter put it together, and then she put it together, and then she saw the good doctor doing Morse code on the window, and then redid the plan basically.
Yeah,
and confessed.
I wanted her to be like, fine, I'll go build my own secret clandestine organization, and I'll call it like Shield or Sword or something.
And there'll be no boys allowed.
And it'll have blackjack and hookers.
Screw it, let's go to Vegas.
Yeah.
That same conversation happened like 40 minutes
I know.
It was great.
But I enjoyed it so much. I wanted
I
to
did
share it with
too.
everyone.
Zach and I just really like Futurama.
But yeah, but she sees him tapping out the Morse code.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I love that Jarvis can read it too. Well, you know what it was that really stood out in this episode is Jarvis, this is a step up for him. This is no longer Howard Stark's butler Jarvis. This is Jarvis holding his own.
Yeah,
he found out his friend was in trouble, and it's at this point that they are really friends.
Yeah.
Like, this is not I'm working with you and we have a rapport. This is I'm your friend. I'm going to put myself in harm's way when I don't have to make sure that you get out okay.
Yeah. Also, there was a lot of panicking that happened that he mentioned, but also he's risking being put away for treason. Like, he's risking a lot for his friend, and it very easily could not have paid off. Like, it's a very literally a paper thin way to get Peggy out of there.
It was kind of like he wanted to get his friend out of the frying pan, and his solution to getting her out was jumping in with her. And hoping that somehow she would be able to get the both of them.
Look, I'm not saying he's a really good field agent, but he at least has the respect and the aggressiveness to do it.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
and
if
he
he wouldn't
means
have
well.
shown up, it wouldn't have, worked out the way it did. So.
And then they confess, and everyone's blown away by how much work Peggy did, like, underneath all of their noses, like,
Right.
and really have trouble trusting her, because they see that the doctor is doing something clandestine, which we will get to later, but I really liked that scene where it was all of them realizing how competent Peggy is, and really, like, she's been doing your job for you this entire time.
She's been doing your
Right.
job and then some.
Yeah.
And honestly, this was the moment that I have been waiting for this entire season. The moment where she comes clean and they find out just how amazing she actually is and how blind they've been to her talent.
Yeah.
But they still don't give her the credit.
No, they still don't until the very end. But and before we get up to that, we obviously want to, before we get into all of that, actually, because I want to spend some time on that whole on everything that where we talk about the bombing and Dottie and Chief Dooley, Chief Dooley, and item 17, which Jesse is going to have some info on just some names of item 17.
Yeah,
But
sure.
before we get into all that, I want to give some shout outs to you guys that were so awesome and wrote us reviews on iTunes. You guys
awesome.
are the best fans, and we say it every week, but it really does make a difference. It helps us here at AfterBuzz TV. It helps keep the lights on, but it helps because it helps us find sponsors. And they know that this show is good. They know that you guys are enjoying the show, that you're tuning in every week because you're leaving those iTunes reviews. It really does make a difference, and so we want to be able to give you guys some shout outs. So Bad Wolf Bay 10, 5 stars. Love this show. A great podcast to go hand in hand with a great show. Can't wait to see how Peggy convinces the SSR that she's not a traitor. And we saw that tonight.
We did.
And Jesse Klein, I have a big fat no for your Thompson marries Peggy theory. Not on board.
Okay.
Mama Little 7 says 5 stars. Awesome. Can't wait to see how this all ends and where it will leave us. Do you think we will get future Agent Carter episodes? Just want to say you guys and girls are great. Love listening. I use AfterBuzz for all the shows that I watch. Techno Griffin, marvelous. I get it, Techno Griffin.
I like it.
I am not a comic book reader, so a lot of the detail is lost on me. Playing this after show helps fill in the gaps and makes me a better TV watcher. Well done. Rosemary 42. I wasn't looking forward to Agent Carter because it meant the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would be off. But I
feel your
watched
pain.
and have truly enjoyed. Now it's almost over and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be back. Yeah, but I'm really going to miss Agent Carter. Fortunately, I still have my pod people, as I like to refer to you, with me. Thanks for a great show.
My pod people.
That's all we are. We're replaceable pod people. There's a spare.
in the closet.
What was it? Yep.
That's what I was thinking. Oh my gosh.
NSYNC Chick 8877. You guys are awesome, and I love hearing your theories. Love all the MCU, and I love Peggy. Not since Sydney Bristow have I loved a female spy more.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. Should I?
Sydney Bristow.
Was that Alias?
Alias,
I
guys.
think it's
Yeah.
Alias.
See,
Okay.
I was just told the other day, like, Zach, go sit down. Both Yell Teagle and Matt Lieberman, other hosts here at AfterBuzz, yelled at me that I need to go watch Alias. Now I need to even more.
Yeah.
Again, female-led ABC spy show.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Also, thank you to all the YouTube posters. I think Steph was getting at it earlier when I said hello world, but when I said it in the last time, someone commented that they watched this in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for pointing that out.
Yeah, and a bunch of people are talking about it in the chat roll. I just want to give some shout-outs to you guys. Disney Fan 2001, Emmanuel Dominguez, Born Guy, Philip Galbraith, Techno Griffin, Joel Berkeley Lewis, bunch of Quinn Landry. Thank you guys all. Star Drew, Ingrid Rios. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Rene's owner, everybody. Thank you for
Awesome.
joining
Thank
us
you.
live. And if you are listening to this later, you can join us live on Tuesdays. Or Tuesday, because next week is sadly our finale. And to the season 2 rumors, what I've heard, because people are talking about it right now, what I've heard is that the writers are open to it. So I guess it's not a sealed ending next week, but as far as I know, there are no plans in place for it.
What I'm going to guess, not to get into predictions, but what I'm going to guess is that we'll get everything wrapped up, and then an end credits scene because it's Marvel.
Sure.
Well done. Well done. Yep.
It's gonna end up that all of the Marvel movie universe is just an end credits scene to a different movie.
It's just an end credit scene to life. But guys, so let's get back into it. Where we last left our review, we were talking about Agent Dooley. Agent Dooley.
That's what you get.
Freaking A.
Agent Dooley, and let's just start by talking about Dr. Faustus, because we got a confirmation. First moment of this episode that like a lot of people who had talked about Dr. Faustus probably being Dr. Ivancho. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah. No.
Ivanko. I'll say Ivanko because that's close. So Dr. Faustus, I had to do some research on this because I've actually never read one of his stories before. But he's like
not Russian, is he?
You know, I'm not 100% sure. His name is Johann Fenhoff in the mainstream comics.
Yeah.
So they're obviously changing it a little bit, although it could be an alias, I guess.
Sure.
But he's basically, I mean, he has mind. He's a brilliant psychiatrist, and he just like manipulates people through all kinds of different means over the years.
Yeah.
He works for Hydra. He works for the Red Skull. Like at different times, he's a Captain America villain.
Yeah.
Basically, is what it comes down to. So it perfectly fits that he would be in an Agent Carter show.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting seeing how he used his powers for good at the beginning, where they were out of anesthesia for these people who needed to have surgery on them, or in this case, an amputation on a Private Ovechkin, who probably later on sired a great NHL player. But at this time, he used it so that the guy didn't have any chemical anesthesia, and he just used his powers so that they could. Very grisly sounding. Like I feel like they're taking chunks out of a watermelon or something like that. Cut off the guy's leg without having to use any anesthesia at all.
Yeah. I thought it was a very interesting transition how they had that whole scene, which was a pretty awesome scene, and that it showed him playing chess, and the whole take me to a happy place. But that scene ended with a transition to showing Sousa.
Yeah.
And like the same
with limping. Yeah.
I was like, that guy's been through a lot. Well, I think it just went to show about how much he's been through and why maybe he would lose trust in Agent Carter quickly and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, what I loved the way that they did his like dream sequences where there were like pieces of the other world shining through.
It was really
like
cool.
for Private Ovechkin, he saw everyone else that's under surgery, and it's like, don't worry about that. Focus.
And then everything's gone, and then it's nice,
and
happy.
when he was dually with his family, he saw the wall of his office behind him. He saw the window that he had asked him to shut.
You shouldn't stand by the window.
But then
it was gone the next scene.
This was such good work, like well thought out set design,
and really good showcase of his powers. Like it showed like when you were focusing on his voice, then the other world didn't bleed through, and when you weren't, you kind of came back. I thought that was a really good way to showcase those powers that are in the brain. So like, how are you going to show that? They did a really good job with that.
Yeah, and I mean, he's clearly, we saw him last week beginning his manipulation of Chief Dooley, but he really completes it here, and he's using what your deepest motivations are. Like, what are you worrying about the most? Like, what is your biggest want? And for Chief Dooley, he wants to be able to have his family back. His wife cheated on him, we found out last week, and he just wants to put his family back together.
Yeah.
But so Faustus preys on that and is able to manipulate him into just basically becoming his slave.
Yeah.
Do we think, this could be totally off, but I want to know what you guys think. Do we think that there's a reason why they do show that his power was used as good? Because if you think back to last week's episode as well, like clearly the mission at first was to kill Chief Dooley, but he waits because Chief Dooley's telling him about his family, and it's like he's like, not yet, let's wait. So it gives him more opportunity, and then he changes it to Carter when Carter knows this information. So is he having a moment of, do we need to kill Chief Dooley, or do you think he's just prolonging the plan?
I think he was prolonging the plan, but it does make... I'm wondering the exact same thing you are, is like, how did a guy... First of all, somebody who has this kind of mental powers, how is he working for anyone? Couldn't he just convince just about anyone who was threatening or trying to intimidate him to just back off and, walk into heavy traffic if need be?
I think that might show how scary Leviathan is. If this guy is this powerful and he's not the head of the organization, then who's above this guy?
Yeah,
I think
we know?
He kept the chief alive because he needed like, that's a great pawn. If you can have the chief of the SSR under your mind control, then you can pretty much do whatever you want in the SSR.
He was walking all throughout those buildings, and the only person who questioned it was Thompson, and even then he kind of got shot down.
He was getting the other agent to do that for Agent Yacht, or however you pronounce his name.
I think.
He was getting him to do stuff as well, and then he was like, nope, I'm done with you, I'm going to send you go hit by a truck. So I feel like there was a change of plan. I don't know if there's a reason that we'll see in the next episode that he does have this soft side, if that's going to play back again or not.
In terms of keeping Dooley alive, you mean?
No. Just that he has the soft side, that he was thinking about it, and he heard him, and he made it pretend that he cared about his wife, and then he prolonged it a little bit because he was having troubles at home, and he didn't want to kill him.
We've also seen in flashbacks him kill a guy who didn't want to be part of Leviathan, and then also execute that guy's family.
Yeah. Well, no, that wasn't him. He was sitting. He was one of the people being threatened.
That's right.
And again, that makes me wonder. Again, what was the timeline in order for him to develop this technique? Because when he was kidnapped, was that 1937?
I believe it was before this flashback.
I was going to say, because if I'm remembering it correctly, that was 1937 when he was initially kidnapped, and then 1943 is when he had developed this initial mind control that we see at the top of the episode. So maybe the reason why he's still being able, being manipulated by other people is that, he was captured, and it was just something that developed slowly from there.
And he doesn't want his family to get killed. That's why he's working for Leviathan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I think he, with the chief, I think all of it was just the amount of time it took and the way that it went about. I think it was all just the pieces that had to fall into place to have Chief under his control, because Chief is a very strong-willed person, as we see, because he's able to question this throughout. He's like, I don't want to do this. There's so that I feel like I shouldn't. That's the most we've seen anybody fight it. Yawk just folded. He was just under his spell. But Chief Dooley is a strong guy and was able to say, at least gets the thought of, I think I should keep it here. Yeah, ultimately, he lost. But
I guess, too, because, how last episode the new mission was, to kill Agent Carter. If Dottie would have actually killed Agent Carter, it would have raised more security around all the stuff in the office.
Sure.
And she wasn't successful in doing that either. So somehow the plan got, prolonged a little bit. I don't think they expected that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. But so at this point, Dr. Faustus is walking out of the building with item 17.
Well, yeah, and we also saw that the SSR now knows about Steve's blood.
Yes.
When we were talking about Peggy, she showed it to them as part of her final, this is what was happening. Why I kept it is because I didn't trust Stark either, that kind of stuff. And then we find out that was kind of Stark thought that's what Leviathan was after, but actually they were after this item 17.
Yeah, I mean, it was a, I don't know, I don't want to call it a misdirect necessarily, because you know what, I never thought that Leviathan was there for Steve's blood.
Yeah.
It feels like an easy thing, and I don't think Leviathan would know about it. But also that it just what, that's not big enough. They're going for something world-changing.
Well, it could potentially be big enough. And
it could, I guess.
In the Marvel comic universe, there have been plenty of villains and heroes that have been created out of trying to synthesize Steve's blood.
Yeah.
But it turns out that they were going after a much more immediate result weapon.
Yeah. Right. But while we're talking about the blood, let's just dig into that scene to take us off track for a moment. That scene where Peggy really confesses.
Yeah.
She just lays it all out there because this is a moment where she is truly concerned for all of her,
Everyone.
all of her team.
They have 90 seconds or 90 minutes? Yeah.
90 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, it was 90 minutes in that Morse code before evacuation, whatever that meant. And so that's why she did the confession, was she had a timeline now where it's like they don't know what's going to go down, but something big's going to go down.
Yeah.
And boy, did it.
Yeah. Poor old Chief Dooley.
Well, they send a team into the building across the street, supposedly to find out who Dooley's talking in Morse.
Thompson, Sousa in a red shirt.
Yeah,
and
Thompson, Sousa, and Guy Tsuga.
Yeah, and guy.
That guy who's gonna die.
But I love how Thompson too warns them both, like we're shooting to kill,
Yeah.
and neither one of them.
Yeah.
No.
No one listens to this order, shoot to kill, but it was cool to see Thompson's real fear. Like, he's like, after I saw what that kid did in Russia, I'd hate to see a grown one. That's
What,
like,
a
yeah.
Jew?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah. We also see that this dentist didn't have a lot of friends or family.
No,
'cause no one's
clearly
gone
not.
to his office.
Right.
We were wondering about that. We're like, is he still there? And then there were flies buzzing around. We're like, he's still there.
Thompson holds his own against Dottie. Like, there's a fight, and
Or you mean Sousa?
Sousa, Sousa
that,
holds his own against Dottie. Yeah, that was awesome.
I was so impressed because just the way we've seen her fight, I was just expecting her to just take him down, and he held his own really well. And I'm cheering for him. It was so great.
My favorite move was when he slid the bucket at her.
Like, really?
And then we see that she's not just like able to charge in; she's also a smart fighter. Because as soon as he pulls the gun, she backs out. She's like, "I'm not going to try to like get on top of you, because that's how you die." Yeah. So you're like, "Well, I'm a better fighter than you." Oh, he's got a gun. Well, I'll just tackle it. Bam.
Yeah. And to Sousa's credit, because we were all going, shoot her, shoot her. At first, he didn't see her face. I know,
Like that?
I was thinking Jurassic Park. But clever girl. But he didn't see her face at first, so he had no way of confirming that it was actually her until they started fighting. That other guy had no excuse.
Yeah.
Because
The random?
Yeah, because she's doing parkour down the stairs and and like they're yelling at. He had no excuse not to shoot her.
Just shoot her.
Yeah. I mean, so moving along, we're running a little low on time here, guys. So I want to talk about poor old Chief Dooley, because like he gets strapped into some Stark armor, which I thought was like, yeah, this is an early Stark armor, and this is the bad one. There you have the vest, and I'm thinking like, is it like early Kevlar? But that wouldn't be dangerous.
No, it was for like heating in cold weather.
Yeah, that was what I mean when they first revealed the vest. I'm like, what could the vest be?
I just thought he invented fashion.
He is pretty fashionable.
And he was like, the vest cannot be a thing. We have to bury the vest.
It's too powerful.
It is the worst of all my bad babies.
Annie Hall cannot be created.
But so Chief Dooley gets trapped in this, effectively a bomb. It's a wearable bomb. They can't get it off. It's a special alloy that Stark designed. Basically, they go through all of the motions of like, how can we possibly fix it? And in this moment, we really learn how good a guy Chief Dooley is.
Oh, there's that heartbreaking moment where he wakes up in his family's house.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I was relieved that he wasn't there, number one, that he didn't have this vest there. But it was like seeing him with his family, and I was like, oh, he's dead.
How good? Wait, time out though. How good a guy he is. If he would have listened to Peggy, he wouldn't have been in this situation. I mean, if he wouldn't have been like the chauvinistic boss.
But hindsight's always 20/20,
Yes,
and like, yes, he could have treated people better. But ultimately, what he winds up doing is when he realizes there's no way for him out of this,
Yeah,
like he's going down no matter what, and so he just jumps out the window.
Right. He doesn't want to take down the ship.
Yeah, he's willing to just like make it like there's always that outside shot that doesn't go off, that Jarvis is wrong, but he believes that it's possible and decides that he's going to take it into his own hands to protect everyone else.
That would have been funny if it didn't go off. He jumped out the window.
That would have been heartbreaking. Well, and who does he turn to right before he does? You know, he tells Thompson to, you know, tell his wife he's sorry, missed dinner, but then he turns to Carter and is like, you make sure that they pay for this.
Right, because he gets it. He finally gets it.
Yeah.
And then we see what I'm calling the Mad Bomb.
So explain this.
Yeah, it's in the Marvel comic universe as like a sonic device, but it's basically a thing that makes people go crazy and tear each other apart. So I'm thinking this is what happened in Finnow.
For sure.
They use this gas, and it's in a Captain America story that there's a mad bomb, and there's like 3 levels of it. There's one that's like the size of a thumbnail, there's one that's the size of a hand grenade, and then there's like a big one. And like the thumbnail can make people in a room go crazy, hand grenade can make people in like a neighborhood go crazy, and the big one is supposed to be able to make maybe the United States go crazy. And like it's like this big deal because it just turns people crazy and like tear each other apart and then tear themselves apart. And we see Dottie take this gas and put it in a movie theater, and people just go insane.
Yeah.
I thought Dottie was going to save the old lady.
You thought she was?
No,
Nope.
Dottie doesn't.
No.
Dottie doesn't give no care.
No, but you have the scene where like people are like pissed off that they think she's rolling a baby in there, and the old lady's like, "Don't worry about it." Until I thought like we were gonna see a soft side of Dottie.
Well, it's just how evil she is.
Dottie,
Like people can be playing nice to her, but she's gonna kill them.
In the last week, I met a Russian woman who was a dancer, and I immediately was like,
She didn't try to hand you a baguette, did she?
no, she didn't. But I was taking my own advice, like, don't trust Russian dancers. and I immediately backed away from her. She could have been perfectly nice, but I'm going to take my advice.
Yeah.
She's probably the nicest woman in the world.
That was my future wife that I ran away from.
I like the what it ended up being with the mad bomb. But when they first like pull it out and he like opens the chest, I'm like, oh, is it the obelisk, you guys? I'm just like leaning on Shield, like, oh my god. And if you don't know what that is because you haven't watched Shield, watch Shield.
Seriously.
Catch up. But yeah, so we're running very low on time, so I want to get into predictions. But before we do you guys have any last thoughts on this episode?
This was a great episode, and just like all of Agent Carter, it was really fun. But man, were there parts that were hard to watch.
I thought this was really well directed, and like I really liked the build of tension that they used in this. It felt very visceral, and the stakes were really high. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of Angie.
Oh, Angie.
There wasn't enough Angie.
I think last week was her act out.
I know. I just want more Angie.
I mean, the moment that we didn't get a chance to talk about it in detail, but where Peggy just says, I suppose I just wanted a second chance to keep him safe.
Yeah.
It's such a subtle line. There's subtle difference between what could have been written. Because it could have been, it would have been so easy to say, I suppose I just wanted to hold on to the final piece of him, to have a piece of him with me. And that would have been the weaker way to do it. This was Agent Peggy Carter is a strong woman, and she wasn't just like holding on to her love. This was her holding, like, she feels like she failed to protect somebody.
Steve,
That's who she is. She wants to protect not just her and the people around, but the people around her, the world, and being able to protect Steve Rogers is the most devastating moment of her life, and this was the only way she could think of to make up for it.
Yeah.
And that just spoke a lot to me. So let's move into predictions real quick for next week. The finale.
Now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Guys, it's sadly next week is going to be the 8th episode of this little mini run and the finale of Agent Carter. Oh.
Sad.
It looks like Howard Stark is back, though.
Yeah. I mean, he has to be. He has to come back at least
You gotta
once.
get some Stark action in there.
I mean, there's going to be Stark's back. There's going to be all kinds of craziness. There was a plane that looked like it was going to crash into the city.
I'm guessing that's Stark.
Yeah. Good
Well,
point.
so do we think? I'm going to go ahead and make the prediction that the plan is to set off the mad bomb so that it affects all of New York. And maybe.
I like that. I like that theory.
Yeah.
That's definitely. I think that could definitely be the plan. So maybe that little one gas canister wasn't item 15, whatever, or item 17. Whatever item 17 is what makes that gas. Yeah. That could be interesting to see it on a big scale.
I don't think they used the whole whatever was in the.
Oh yeah.
No.
I think there's got to be a mano-a-mano fight between Agent Carter and Dottie.
For sure.
Yeah. Like,
It's gonna be
there's gonna be just a sweet beat down.
I mean, I would say that in that moment, I almost want like Jarvis, not because Peggy needs it, but like I want Jarvis to come in and like be part of that fight. Like it would just be so cool to see him fighting her. Like Jarvis versus the Black Widow.
It's just like amazing fight, and then Jarvis just walks up with a gun and like shoots her.
Oh, Indiana Jones style, yeah. We also we have a question from Twitter from user Kira. Who do you think will be left in charge after Dooley? Possibly Carter, or maybe Thompson.
Or is this where the SSR goes kaput and now it's Stark and Carter leading S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I think that's what they're leading to, and if they do a season 2 of Agent Carter, I think it would be the creation of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like the first years of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like what that would look like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure. I have to go see if they've said anything specifically about this, because all of that, and even this series to a certain extent, steps on that little Agent Carter one-shot that they did with the Iron Man 3 DVD. Mm-hmm. I almost just want them to pretend, as cool as that short is, I'm like, pretend it doesn't exist, because there's so much cooler stuff to do. Because this series has been it's the same thesis statement. It's just done in big, full time. I would love to see that in a season 2. I would love to see the show in a season 2. Guys, tweet at ABC, tweet at anyone you can think of, Marvel, all these people, hashtag renew Agent Carter. It's as simple as that. We want to see more of this show. We know you guys do too. So hashtag renew Agent Carter. Jesse Klein, if you want to keep up with you between now and next week's finale episode, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1, and you can see me doing live comedy all around the Los Angeles area.
Sweet.
Steph?
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at I am Stef Z, and I just put my website up too, iamstefz.com, so you can check out all the other things I'm doing.
And I'm Megan. You can follow me on Twitter at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at @ZachWilson, ThatzachWilson. Whole bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz. Better Call Saul, Grimm, Sleepy Hollow. We had a lovely chat with Lindy Greenwood from Sleepy Hollow earlier tonight. So check those out and a bunch of other shows. Guys, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.